Once you have gotten those vegetables out of the garden, there are some special considerations for post-harvest care. So some storage conditions are very critical. Um, it depends on which vegetable you're working with. There are some vegetables that may be damaged. They may be too large for refrigeration. Some vegetables need to be cured before storage, and that will vary. If you're growing onions, garlic, potatoes, sweet potatoes, these are examples of vegetables that need uh, a different condition of high heat and humidity for a certain period of time before they have changed enough to be stored. So you can always eat them fresh, but if you're going to be storing things for any length of time, you may need to follow a curing process. Then, when you're selecting the plants that you're actually going to grow in your garden, some cultivars are bred for storage, so look for that as a characteristic of the cultivar that you want to grow. Some onions store really well after curing. Some onions need to be eaten fresh, and they just don't store very well at all. There are many vegetables that cannot be refrigerated. They will be damaged if they are stored too cold, and that includes things like potatoes and sweet potatoes. Um, they will undergo some physiological changes at very cold temperatures that make them inedible or damaged for cooking purposes. So those types of vegetables can be kept cool, like in a basement, but not necessarily in a refrigerator. Tomatoes will lose their flavor if stored in a refrigerator. So if at all possible, keep those out on your counter or eat them right away. We want you to take good care of your gardens and use proper hand washing techniques and harvest safely because we know for a fact that food can make us sick. And even if you're growing organically, there are always things that can come into your garden that may contaminate your fruits and vegetables. So the statistics are alarming. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food. 3,000 will die from foodborne illnesses every year. And that is a scary thing. So take your edible crops very seriously and make sure that you are handling them appropriately. 51% of these illnesses are from plants, not animals. So it's not the beef or the pork or the chicken. Over half of these foodborne illnesses are caused by plants. And 75% of those are due to vegetables. So we have a lot of foodborne illness that is occurring in this country that is coming from vegetable crops. And many of those are from leafy greens. So leafy greens require some special attention in the garden to make sure that you're keeping them very clean. Garden produce is not immune from carrying disease-causing organisms. I think this is proven every year in the number of people who get sick from eating vegetables that have not been handled correctly. Where do these pathogens come from that are making people sick? A lot of times, especially in commercial operations, but it can happen in community gardens or in home gardens. Contamination comes from irrigation water. In many cases, it comes from the use of uncomposted manure, so manure that has not been fully composted or composted correctly. Sometimes it comes from excrement or other contributions to your garden from wild or domestic animals. So you have to think every time a bird flies over, there is the possibility of that bird contaminating your produce. Handling of produce by gardeners who are ill, using contaminated tools either in the garden or in the kitchen, storing the vegetables incorrectly, and in many cases, in the kitchen especially, that cross contamination where things are not getting cleaned up appropriately in the process of food preparation. Prevention is definitely the key to reducing contamination of fresh fruits and vegetables. So take all the precautions and do what you can to keep your produce safe. And what can you do? You do need to understand that there are risks. There will always be risks in gardening and food production. Keep safety in mind. Make sure you know what you're applying and keep track of any pesticides that you apply. And this includes organic pest control methods. Um, all pesticides have a risk associated with them. So your overall goals should be to reduce the pathogen risks to make sure your food is safe, and also to store your food properly and make sure that the quality is maintained. So we started this discussion of vegetables with some learning objectives, and I hope that we've been able to help you understand what a vegetable is and how we group them and classify them in so many different ways. You should have a really good understanding of the different plant families and what that means with respect to when they grow and how they grow and what part we eat. You should have a better understanding of site selection, soil preparation, and how to really grow a healthy and safe vegetable garden. And then most importantly, I hope it's helped you get started on selecting the right crops and varieties for your garden that you can grow and practice some of these techniques on. Even if you are an experienced vegetable gardener, a long-time vegetable gardener, there are always new things to learn. And the best way to learn about growing vegetables and other edible crops is to actually get out there and do it. Even if you're growing in a container, there are so many different things that you can try with different types of crops as well as different techniques. So go out there and get started, try some new things, read more about how to grow vegetables in your Master Gardener Manual, but you can also look up a number of the publications and get more specific information about different crops and gardening techniques that are very useful in the vegetable garden.